You're listening to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette, only on LA Talk Radio.
You've seen The View. You've heard all the real talk. Now have a seat at our table. A Table for Five.
Good Monday morning.
Good morning. It is Monday. Did I get it right today?
Monday, October 29th, 2018. Yes, we did. It is Monday morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Table for Five with Felicia. I'm Felicia.
Annette. I'm Annette.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we are here today on Monday morning where you, the listening and viewing audience, will always have a seat right here at this table.
Yes.
Our table for five. Today we have a little half of a table. 3 people, 4 people at the table, including you guys, with some great conversation. So we were hoping that you will join us here every Monday and Wednesday now, 2 days a week. You get us 2 days. What's up? Aren't you so excited? At 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. As you can see, we have beautiful weather today from our, in real life and in our studio.
Yeah, in real time.
Yeah, it kind of sort of looks like the studio today. So beautiful October afternoon. We always have warm Halloweens. Halloween is coming up.
Yeah.
And I love it.
Really?
I love it. I do.
See, I'm used to the chilly Halloween.
I do. No. I like going out and hanging out with my neighbors and walking with the kids and drinking a little bit. My own trick-or-treating. But yes, I digress. Yes, but we hope that you will join us every Monday and Wednesday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And if you don't catch us then, where else can they catch us?
You can catch us, our weekly housekeeping, on all our social media platforms, which are Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and our website, which I like to call our one-stop shop, where you can find all our former shows under our gallery page, and you can connect with us under contact if you want to receive our newsletter. Just subscribe. All you got to do is put your email, go to our contact page, put your email, subscribe, and you get a wonderful newsletter that lets you know on the upcoming shows, prior shows, and a little tidbit of any information that's going on that month, which can be national news or any kind of event that's being honored that month.
Awareness.
Awareness, thank you. And then also, if you would like to advertise with us, there's also a little advertise tab on our website. You just click there. You see all our tier offerings, and somebody very professional will get back to you once you hit a little contact and put your information and inquire. So these are really great places to kind of get to know what we're doing, what we're up to, and our Instagram is great. We have a lot of information that we post up on our Instagram as well, and you can learn about our upcoming guests there too.
Yes, subscribe to that newsletter.
Yeah, the newsletter is the bomb, guys. I really, like
twice
you
a
said,
week. That's it.
Yeah, and you said last week something very funny. It was like, I learned something when I get the newsletter, because we don't do the newsletter.
Yeah. I mean, we approve it.
Right.
So we kind of read through it, but when we read through it, we're like,
that's such great information.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I am thrilled.
I have learned something today. So
if
we're all about that.
Yeah.
Empowering you, educating you.
Yeah. And if we get something out of it, I'm sure, the recipient will as well. So do that. You won't regret it.
Yes, exactly.
And also, I'm sorry, we are on Facebook Live. If you're watching us on LATalkRadio.com, you can go to at Felicia and Annette on Facebook Live, Table for Five, and you can actually, write a comment if there's anything you want to
jump in on the conversation.
Jump in on the conversation, and also there's a number you can call, which is 818-570-5085, 818-570-5085, or you can hit us up on Facebook and let us leave a comment or a question. We will try our best to look down and
get to everybody down there.
Get to the comments.
Good morning, everyone on Facebook. Thank you for joining us today.
I know last week we had somebody from Dubai watching.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Yes,
I was very excited.
We're international.
London. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
International. But today we have a great topic.
Get ready.
Yeah. I think she's really trying to tell herself that and Matthew that. But right here to my left, we have guest Matthew Solomon. Today we have an interesting topic with guest Matthew Solomon. He is the coach for the modern soul, an empowerment coach specializing in communication and relationships, and the author of Man School, Relating with Women in the Me Too Era. This is the book right here. If you guys could kind of take a look.
There it is.
Man School, Amazon's #1 new release?
Yeah.
New release. Yes. Fantastic.
Congratulations.
Yes,
you.
congratulations.
Thank you.
So fantastic. We're so excited. A little bit more about Matthew. He was born and raised in the melting pot that is Los Angeles. Whoop, whoop, native LA. You know, there aren't too many native
No.
Los Angelinos is what we are called. And so I have to celebrate every time I meet fellow Angelino.
Fairfax High School.
There you go. There you go. Matthew has always had a passion for equality and understanding, which is evident in his work as an author, coach, and filmmaker, for which he has won numerous awards. Matthew writes the weekly column Too Sensitive for the Good Men Project, and he is a single father of 3. He can be reached at www.coachwithmatthewsolomon.com. Again, www.coachwithmatthewsolomon.com. And we'll put is there a link up on Facebook Live for that yet?
It'll go up right now.
Yes, and then that will also be on our website. If you click on the show, there will also be a link to his website. And where can we order the book? Can we order the book from that website?
From the website. It's on Amazon. But
Okay.
Yeah, from the
Yay.
website too.
Perfect. And I encourage you, everyone, to click on it. Get the book. It's a
up
quick
there now.
read. It's it's full of information, and we're going to be discussing. We're not going to give it all away because you need to
Well,
go
I
out
have
and
6
purchase
note
it.
cards full of questions.
Lord,
So we may or may not give it all away.
yeah, we're gonna get into it. So if you've read the book, if you're a fan, if you're a friend, his cousin, family, whatever.
If you have sons, and it's a great stocking stuffer.
Yeah. Oh, it's
It's a great Hanukkah gift. It's a great,
Yep.
it's
Yeah,
something.
great
It's
idea.
it's a quick read. It's not, you're not giving them the book of life. You're just giving
Yeah.
them a book of right now.
Yeah.
So it's
I
good.
love
It's a
that.
good-
The book of right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I love
You can't copyright that. I said, I'll come for you. I'll come for you.
Shoot.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I could just do a live reading right now. 'cause
Exactly, right?
Let's get through it all in an hour.
exactly. So we want to welcome Matthew.
Yes,
Thank you for
welcome.
coming.
Here, let me
Thank-
give you
oh,
our
oh.
applause.
Yes, our
Since
little-
everybody has their ears on today.
Yes.
You can hear our applause. Welcome to the show. Thank you
you very
so
much.
much
Don't
for
be laughing
joining
at our
us.
cheesy applause.
And I love your newsletter, by the way. I get your
Thank
newsletter.
you.
you.
See, I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah,
You see, it's a great newsletter, guys.
Yep.
So I want to jump right in.
Yes, jump, girl,
because
jump.
I just want to jump.
Yeah,
right in.
go for it.
So I was reading about you, and I was reading about your background, and I was curious to know at what point did you shift from being an actor, filmmaker to a coach, a life coach?
Yeah.
And then where did that certification happen? Did you get yourself certified? Like, at what point did you make that pivot in your life?
Right.
And
yeah.
why?
And why?
And
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we got an hour. So, it's all been like a path and the culmination. It's all led to this point. I started in the music business and then transitioned into acting and filmmaking. I'm still a filmmaker. I still
Right.
write scripts, but what's interesting is the content and what I write has changed dramatically in the last couple of years since all of this. And so, basically, I've been studying relationships and communication for 20 plus years. Growing up in LA, I grew up with everybody, so every race, religion, sexual orientation. And as a white man and a white boy at that time, I was really aware of how I was treated differently. And so equality has always been a thing for me. And then studying relationships and communication and how to be a better person. And I was married for 9 years, and how to be a better husband and better partner and better parent. I've been in all of these educational programs to learn about this stuff for years. And then I was a program leader for Landmark Worldwide for 5 years.
And explain what that is, because I know you mentioned it.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
book.
Yeah.
So Landmark Worldwide is one of the leading personal development seminar companies in the world. And they've
Okay.
been around since the 70s under, different names and stuff. But but they're right up there. Like Panda Express sends their employees, Lululemon sends their employees, and it's a it's a tough program. And I was a coach, and I led programs and worked with hundreds of people, and really learned how to listen for what's important to people and what will make a difference for people, and discovering why we've been taught in life to debate, not communicate, and that goes back to school. We're just not taught how to do these things. So as the Me Too online movement came about a year ago,
which has come recently. I think it's been around for a while. For I think since 1999 or
2006. Tarana Burke started
2006.
it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was started in 2006, and then last year, post Weinstein and Cosby and all of that, as women were sharing their Me Too stories, I knew that was happening. I knew the magnitude, but seeing it was really humbling. And I knew that was going on, and most men weren't prepared for that. And most
now, when you say you knew it was going on, like, had you kind of just seen it or had heard stories
I've
from
heard
your
stories,
friends?
yeah.
So it was kind of like an underlining thing, like you knew it was there, and now it was like bam in the forefront.
Yeah, I knew it was there. I'd been listening to women for years. After my divorce, and I was in a relationship after that, I just decided to date for a while. And so I would go on dates, and I was on all these apps, and women would just tell me their horror stories, because I've always been that kind of guy that women tell stuff to.
Okay.
So like I knew a lot of this stuff, and I knew how men were responding to them before this.
Okay.
And so as they were sharing their stories, and men would become generally defensive or try and legitimize it, or be like, oh, well, you misunderstood, or you should take it as a compliment, or whatever it was.
So these are things that you were hearing from the females that you were encountering,
and then I would actually witness it.
Oh,
so I started to witness the response online, and I would interject and have conversations with men. And
that's right, like on Facebook and stuff like that. Yeah.
And so as I would do that more and more, women were like, oh my God, a man who gets us, thank you so much. I'm exhausted from having to explain this stuff all the time. Would you please write a book or teach a class or something? And so I thought about teaching a class, but I know as men, we like to kind of do things on our own. And, so I wrote this book, and it really only took me about 3 days to do the first draft, because I
just
had
all the resources of all the conversations. So how is this book different than any other book that's out there? Because I Googled a couple of things, and there are other books up there about relationships and men and women, and so how is this one different?
Okay, yeah, great. So this is, well, it's very specific to right now. I mean, it's super current. It relates to the Me Too movement and the era. It deals with what women are dealing with right now. It teaches men how to listen, which I've never seen in a book, like a detailed description of how to actually listen, the steps to do that. And I read all the Mars and Venus books, and David Dado, who's great also, and I feel like we as people have evolved since then, and there are elements of those books that aren't really applicable anymore.
Interesting.
And actually, with my coaching post writing this, our gender roles, I'm finding that I don't really address those anymore with my coaching with couples. It's much more specific to your individual wants and needs versus this is your role as a woman, this is your role as a man, because there's also, our lines are getting blurred in a good way, and then there's the LGBTQ community, which needs that support as well.
Yeah, because I don't love the idea of roles. I think, a role means this is what a role for an actor. This is the part that you've been written, and this is what you play, and you stay there. And relationships just aren't like that. I mean, there's ebbs and flows. I think
that's how we got into the mess that we are now. It's like the man is the dominant man, the woman is the lesser.
And I don't think that there is anything wrong with saying, I think when we start to say, role reversal and using this type of language, it makes us feel like, oh, well, now the woman is becoming masculine. Yeah. We're trying to do this, and or a man is sensitive, or a man isn't understanding because now he's trying to figure it out, or he wants to be a better listener. So I think we need to let go of these labels and the idea of roles. And I like that idea of what you just said about how when you're coaching, it's more about an individual, and you need to look at the communication. And speaking of that, so how you break it down in your book, which I did like a lot, were the very, I wouldn't call them short, but specific chapters. So I'm going to just read off of some of them. How did we get here is the first one. Sex. There's just a chapter talking about sex. Like, we need to talk about it. Women are not men. I mean, it's something that seems so like obvious, but I think for both of us, both sides, we need to understand the differences of how we're different from each other. And then just to name a few, where do we go from
a change has
yes,
come.
a change has come.
The problems.
Where do we go from here?
Toxic masculinity.
Yes, toxic masculinity. That was an interesting one, I thought, too. Yeah.
So
these are really good little topics.
So I read the book, and I'm like, okay, why? So one of the things I thought of, why are men not evolved in the understanding and relationship with women? Why is it so primal? Why
still?
Yeah, like you would think with education and technology,
role models.
And role models that men would have evolved. But after reading your book, I'm like, they're still acting this way? Are they still acting like primal animals out there? Like, that's a little unnerving.
Well, I mean, there's a couple reasons. The first one is we haven't been called to evolve. Our society is set up that like the status quo works, and talking about the masculine and feminine roles, it's been expected that the men are, we just have to make money and be able to fight, and and we're
right,
cool.
Right.
But our, like, the way we live has changed so much, where we have 2-income families if the partners are together. There's video games and distractions and all of that now. And if you look at the evolution, like in the 70s, there was this whole thing about sensitive men, like we want sensitive men, and then there was a backlash against that. And so, we men, and there's a lot of shame that we experience because we want to do more and we want to do better and we want our partners to be happy, and we don't know how to do that. And we haven't been taught how to do that. And it's like we're not even supposed to have emotions, let alone show them, because we're still being taught, shove it down, pick yourself up and keep going. And that's a big part of it.
Well, okay, so what about, why are men still resistant to accepting the equality of women in all aspects of life? Because I think that has a lot to do with it. Even if you are, I mean, we have great spouses that kind of look at us as equals, but for the most part, I think that's also what's the underlying problem with the Me Too movement. What's one of the problems in the Me Too movement is that men don't see us equal.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the respect issue.
Yeah.
Like when you level the playing field and everyone comes to the table with equal respect for each other, then to me it's like you don't have these issues.
I know, but I feel like men are resistant. Do you feel that in your
It's
experience?
a threat. I mean, because
But what are they threatened
Yeah.
by?
We're
Like, what are they?
threatened
We
by-
don't want. They have physically they're superior in their ability to do other things. Like,
Sometimes.
there's no. I don't understand the threat. That's what drives me bananas.
Well, it's the way, it's our perceived way of living. It's our perceived safety. It's if we're equal, then we're going to lose out. I mean, we could have the same conversation about race. Why are white people afraid of acknowledging that there's racism? It's the same thing. It's like there's an underlying fear. There's an underlying fear that we're inadequate. And then you put on top of that the fear that we're going to lose or lose whatever power we have, and we haven't been taught how to actually partner. So if we're in the workplace and there's a woman who is a strong woman who's moving up in the ranks, and we're like, oh man, if I'm supposed to be the man, I'm socialized to be the dominant one, but if she takes over, then I have to deal with a dominant female. Like, this is the attitude, and it can be very threatening because we're still coming at each other as adversaries, not as partners.
But then where does that come in? Like, what if I almost just feel like you were still just giving people a pass, because I don't know that I can buy into this idea that this is what we've been taught. I mean, I'm in my 40s. I don't remember growing up with that type of attitude. Like, my father didn't have that type of attitude. My uncle didn't portray those types of attitudes towards my cousins. so I almost feel like, what do you think it's more inherent? Do you think it's more like embedded in the DNA and not necessarily
nature
like
and nurture?
Like what you've been taught? Because I feel like there are still some times in some instances where you come from this well-rounded family, but a man can still have this inherent kind of God's gift, if you will,
Right. Well,
type
I mean,
of attitude.
if you look at the media, like TV and movies, it's all because my parents are both school teachers, and they made, I think, the same amount of money. If my mom may have actually made just a little bit more because she taught a little bit longer. So I grew up in the equal household. My grandparents were different. My grandfather was a carpenter and he went out and worked, and my grandmother was stayed at home and kept the house. So yeah, I grew up with that equality, but then and you're asking me, and these are the things that I'm seeing men say, in the same way that I'm hearing what women are saying. So yeah, it's everywhere, really. And so the
extra that's coming in,
and our, like I said, our TV shows and our movies and our, I mean, gosh, you could,
so
if you look at like even Disney movies, the prince that comes along and saves the damsel.
So I think
in distress.
I think what we then need to talk about is how culturally, as a whole, we are really needing to change it. Because I also think too that there are some individuals like yourself that just get it. You said at a very young age you begin to see certain differences and things like that, and things that you walk through your life. I think there are people who are just naturally get it, and then other people that aren't maybe as aware, or that go and might be closed-minded to it too. Like that's, I think, I feel like we have closed-mindedness on both ends.
So this
men
is
and women.
Not in my notes, but I'm thinking: do women really know what they want? Do they really know what they want?
Yeah. Do we really know?
When they come to you and you sit with them and you're coaching, or when you've gone on dates, do they really? Because I think about that. We may meet a guy and we're like, okay, I like this about him, but I don't like this about him, but I'm going to go over here. And the guy's like, well, I thought we had something going. And no, you're not the one. And so do we know what we want?
Well, I'll say this as a coach, and I'm so glad you say that, because one of the first questions I ask somebody is, what do you want? And I get, I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Do you get it from both men and women?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah, I get it.
Or would you say you get it from women more, or is it kind of equal on both ends?
I actually would say I get it from women more.
Yeah.
I
believe it.
Tend to be a little clearer on what we want, and then it's just a matter of, okay, well, does that work, and how does that work?
And how do I get it?
Right.
You have to know how to get what you want.
Yeah, but I want to go back to your title, the title of the book, the hashtag Man2. What did you mean by that?
Which one?
Isn't it the?
No, it's Man School.
Man's School.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So what did you mean by that?
By Man School. It's an education for men. It's a non-judgmental education, but it really is. This is what women are dealing with. This is how we got here with the Me Too thing. This is what women are saying they need from us, and these are the steps to do that if you choose to. And some of the backlash I get sometimes is, well, you're just telling me how to live my life, and who are you? And I'm like, no, you can do it or not, but from my experience, this works.
Do you?
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Because I'm like, okay.
Here
we go. Yeah, here we go. No, because my thing is this. So I had two questions. One, do you ever get backlash from women? Because I feel like you have had very supportive women and women that have come to you and, thank you so much, and you really get it and you understand it. But I have to tell you, my initial thought, like my initial knee-jerk thought was like, I'm sorry, why do we have to have a man telling a man how to treat a woman? Like, why is it that you get to say and speak, even though some of what you're saying, yes, I validate it, I agree with you, but I'm just a little in my feelings, like, really? Like, do you think it's because...
Which part of it has you
I think just, not really anything upset, but just kind of almost as a
the
whole.
whole premise, yeah.
Like, here, guys, here's this book, I've written this for you so that you know how to deal with the woman, and I almost feel like you're telling them all about us, but I'm like, okay, why is that being received better, or did you think it would be received better coming from you, a guy, as opposed to coming from a woman's perspective, like here I am a woman. If I was to write this same book, would it be as received? Do you think men would be like, whatever, that's just a lady talking crazy or whatever, and not really understanding? But because my thing is, how are you as a man explaining how a woman feels?
Yeah.
Well, say all that.
Well, I get your frustration, and I totally understand. And the reality is that women asked me to do this because they were tired of speaking up and saying what their experiences were, and being met with men who didn't believe them or would negate their experience or something.
Weren't getting it.
And so, I think I've been told because I'm a man and I get the woman's perspective, and then I'm a man, so I can translate it to men. That's how this came about. And I'm not saying it's right. You know, I would much prefer that men were just like, oh, she said that. That's her experience. Okay, cool.
So
which is kind of the point I try and get across.
So to that point,
that
are
makes
men
sense.
being receptive to the book? Because I'm thinking a woman would want to read that book first before a guy does, right? So I'm reading it going, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, no, like, oh, okay. But are guys picking it up and writing to you and saying, hey, thank you, that was great, that was insightful?
Yeah, and the majority of the people that I know who have bought it have been women who have bought multiple copies to give to the men in their life. And I have men contacting me all the time that particularly there's the chapter on what women deal with, and then the chapter on listening. And so the responses I get, or I had no idea, women deal with that on a daily basis.
Really? That's what I found interesting. So are you really saying that there are a lot of men, the majority of men out there don't understand the catcalling and the idea of how men can be forceful or ugly in a bar when you turn them down?
We've had no idea the magnitude of that, and that it's a problem because we've been, it's like growing up. I would drive down Sunset Boulevard with my friends, and we would, catcall or whistle and think
that's funny,
that it was a compliment. She must love that because she's getting attention. So there's that.
Y'all need to grow up.
But on the flip side, I will say that there are some women who are into that.
Sure.
And I think that has helped perpetuate this idea of it's okay, because men will then come back and say, but there are women that do it, or they'll say, well, if you don't like it, then why would you wear those clothes to get attention? And I do have to say, and I try to speak this to women all the time, and my argument is in defense of men, is that we as women, we need to reteach how to treat us. And if you don't like that, then don't buy into it. Don't play into it. If someone is catcalling you, don't turn around and be like, hey, because there are girls and women that will do that, that will buy into it because they appreciate that attention.
And I'll speak from my years in New York. Sometimes people do that out of nervousness. Out of acknowledge it, they'll leave me alone. Because if you don't and you keep walking, they get more aggressive in that. And then so if you just go, so it's kind of a
double-edged sword.
A double-edged sword where you do it to kind of protect yourself and go, okay, let me acknowledge this fool so he can leave me alone, because if not, it gets, you keep going, and then if you cross the street again and then they keep going, it's like, okay, stop.
See, I was always the one that got into the argument with people and went off and cussed dudes out.
So I'm thinking this is great because this is for men, but how do we begin with our boys? Because
and is this good for boys?
Yeah. So, because I'm thinking our boys need to read this because then they turn into these men, So how do we get to our boys that are bombarded with just everything being sexualized in everything that they see and do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, what would your suggestion be for moms like us who are, I have an older son who's raised, but for our teenage boys, where you go, you know what, maybe this is a better way to communicate this, or because a lot of the young girls also, we're dealing with a Me Too movement for women. I would almost say that the young girls need to acknowledge that too, because they're over-sexualized themselves and they don't even know it sometimes.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying?
I have seen it.
Yeah, well, Instagram has changed that quite. Our phones have changed that quite a bit. You can pick up a phone and get porn
Right.
super
Yes.
easy.
In a
And,
second.
you know, and when I was
Yeah.
13, 14, I had to work for it.
Yeah.
You
Right,
know?
right.
I mean,
That's true. That's
and
very
then
honest.
and then with the girl, like, you know, my daughter is almost 14. Excuse me, and she has an Instagram account, and all of her friends do. And you know, I see some of the pictures that get posted. I'm like,
do you
no.
talk about that with your daughter?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, it's tough. And then with the boys, I've actually had several moms. I've started working with teen boys, you know, coaching them because I had moms reaching out to me and it's like, I need, you know, my son's awesome and this is what's happening, and do you work with boys because he could use your influence.
Right, right.
And so I've started doing that.
That's awesome.
There, you know, this book I think is great for that. I'm looking at writing one for teens
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well. I just really want to get more of what their experience is so I can speak to them.
The teenagers.
Yeah.
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 So, do men understand that women can change their mind and change their mind often? And that they don't have to take it as a judgment on their character or who they are?
Well, the judgment part is the trick.
Yeah.
Like it's well known, you know, that women change their minds, and we tend to see it as it's not logical, right? And that if she's upset, it's something about me.
Right.
And so
Right.
it's been work for me for, you know, over the course of years to be like, yeah, it's not personal, and I don't have to take it personal.
So, do you, in relationships, do you think women expect the men to make all their dreams come true? Is that what women are saying to you? They want to be in a relationship where they feel that I know this man is going to meet my expectations. Is that still a conversation they're having?
Most of
Yeah.
what I get is that women want men to show up and be available and be able to talk and share and have the women feel safe to express themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, but how does that work in the reverse? So what is the man expecting? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're saying, okay, this is what the woman wants, but then what are they expecting in return?
Yeah, well,
Are they ready to receive
Yeah.
that information?
Well, not even receive it. So let's say I'm in a relationship with someone or my husband, and I'm expecting something from him, but the reverse has to be that I understand that he's expecting something in return.
Right.
And so that communication, like, I feel like women have expectations that your husband or your significant other or your boyfriend is expected to be. There's an expectation that we put on men that they necessarily are not
Aware
trained to
of?
meet. No, they're not trained to meet. That conversation you want to have all the time, you can have it with a girlfriend and be, you know, like, I feel like we're pounding on these men to be something that they're not necessarily. They're not. So,
But why not? Why can't?
because
but
they're
why
not
can't
made
they?
up to be that way. Like, we want them to be something that I believe they're not meant to be. If I'm going to be with someone, I have to be really clear what I want
Yeah.
for myself, and that person has to understand that. And then he's going to be able to turn around and says, I can't give you that, but I love you and I want to be with you anyway. Is that a doable relationship?
It is. So when I work with couples, it's really about, you know, with her, what do you want and need, and with him, what do you want and need? Are you willing to give that to each other? Are you willing to be? Are you okay if you don't get that? And you form this partnership, because
Right.
the way to have relationships work is to have that partnership where
Right.
you're in this. Stan Tatkin, who's a really incredible relationship therapist, calls it the couple bubble, where it's, you know, you and your partner, and you're in the foxhole together against everybody, and nothing gets to penetrate that. So the relationship comes first. So if you can do that, yeah, the relationship has a really good shot, but you have to be willing to
What
do
are the
that.
points
And
where
you have to understand. But how do you get there?
Yeah. So
Yeah. Excuse me.
to that point, what are the points? What are the moments where you go, "Wow, this is not going to work. This relationship is not going to move forward"? Have you ever had to say that to someone? Like, there's just
Yeah.
a point of contention where you guys are never going to see eye to eye.
I actually, honestly, when I've had couples come to me, there's been enough commitment. Like, well, I've had couples who, like, they couldn't even look at each other on the couch. You know, couldn't talk to each other, couldn't look at each other, and all I had them do was face each other and get close and just sit there for 5 minutes and not say anything. And then they started to relax, and then we started to talk. And so, because we come together and everything, we're connected, everything's really good, and then the stuff comes up, and then when the stuff comes up, we either turn into it and work together, but most of us turn away from it and then, get rigid and make the other person wrong, and then we break up, and then we go on to the next person.
And it never gets resolved.
Right.
And then it becomes baggage.
Yeah, it's just
What is toxic masculinity?
So that's it encompasses a lot of things. And so with the hashtag, it's the mansplaining, it's entitlement, it's the construct of the, that there's this thing called the friend zone, and if we're in the friend zone, then we're less of a man because every woman is supposed to want to sleep with us, and if that's not the case, then there's
and where does that
relax.
come from? Do you think that comes from that's a societal thing?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's just been ingrained, and
Okay.
So,
do we have any comments or questions?
no, someone asked, what about lack of accountability? I don't know what that means. Lack of accountability in a relationship, lack of accountability. I'm not really, that was just a comment. But okay, so you had a chapter, and I don't know if it's a chapter, but about chivalry. And I thought, is it really dead? Is it really dead?
I think we need to change the verbiage on that one. Like, I don't love the idea of chivalry. I don't love the idea of this. No, because then again, you're putting somebody in this box. You're putting somebody in this role.
Because I think women. Listen, my frustration is, the book is great, but my frustration is, when do women just empower themselves and just take the power back that we've given men all these years? And if you want chivalry, give it back.
Yeah. I agree.
It's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
So I come from a large family. I had had four brothers. My mom was a homemaker.
Yeah.
My father worked. Sister, youngest. The idea there was chivalry in all of my brothers. Like I don't know what point. My mother was a strong woman, so obviously, hence me and my sister. Like, we're strong people, and my brothers were all confident men, and they were chivalrous, and there was no offense to that. So, are women offended by chivalry, or like, is that
some are?
Why?
But what's interesting that's the one chapter. That's the one chapter that there are that causes, like, some women are like, I don't know about that. Yeah. And so, like I say in the book, it's not for me about, men are stronger and women are weaker. It's about acknowledgement. It's about partnership. It's about recognizing respect.
Right.
It's about recognizing the stuff that women are dealing with that I, talk about a lot in the book, and creating a safe space for her. So like, for instance, I was in a Tantra course around the time I was writing this book, and the woman, Don Cartwright, who was leading the course, said, to the men, please make sure that, if there's a woman here, that somebody's walking her to her car. So it's stuff like that. And I've been raised to get car doors because it's just an acknowledgement, it's a respect thing. And funny story, there was a date that I was on a while back, and she Ubered and I drove, and then we were leaving. I was going to drive her home, and so I was walking to the passenger side of my car. She walked to the other car's passenger side, and I was like, "Where are you going?" She's like, "I'm getting in the car." I'm like, "My car's here." She's like, "Well, why are you on that side?" I'm like, "Because I'm getting the door for you." And she was, 42-year-old woman, never had a man get a door for her.
Wow.
And how did she was she like, "Oh, wow, that's very nice," or was she like, "I'm good, I can get my own door"?
She was like, "Oh, wow, that's really nice," and we had a conversation on the drive about how she doesn't really like to buy into the roles and all of that.
Right.
Yeah, I'm right there with her. I don't love it. I mean, I think
I love everything about it.
I think you should do it just because it's nice. Just like if you open the door for me, and the door back in the day when we didn't all have automatic door locks, I would usually
but my husband still opens the door.
But
automatic door lock.
But I'm just saying, like, I would get in the car and then I would unlock the. You know how you have to manually unlock. Then you manually unlock the door. So it's not I just don't like when people make a big deal about it. Like,
I make a big deal about it
I'm
because
be
it's a sign
chivalrous.
of respect that he's giving you a rightful place. Like, he pulls the chair out for you. It's not like he's controlling you. It's just I feel like in the moment there's something that I'm honoring your presence right now. I'm going to open the door because I think you're special enough. I'm going to pull the chair because I want you to be comfortable.
Yeah.
He's not buttering my bread or feeding me a fork.
Right.
Like, it's just, and I think that sometimes we take those things away from men, and then what are they going to be left with?
I think because we probably have it wrong, and I just kind of had an aha moment here, is that we're taking that and thinking that chivalrous part is what's contributing and buying into the idea of these roles and the masculinity, but it's really not. I think, well, for me anyways, I think I've gotten it wrong. I think that it is coming from so many different places, and just the idea of making someone feel acknowledged
Right.
isn't the end all be all, and that's not what's creating this over masculine or chauvinistic type attitude.
Yeah, because I don't think that is being chauvinistic.
We need to, but I think it's just become synonymous. I think some people have looked at it like, well, I'm a woman, I'm an independent woman, and to combat the chauvinisticness, we went to the flip side, and we went all the way to the left and was like, I don't need you to open my door. I don't need you to
I don't
have a job.
Are there a
I
lot
buy
of
my
women
own
that
stuff.
feel that way?
Well, I wanted to say men like to feel needed also.
Yeah,
And so
like-
if we don't, then okay, what am I doing
yeah,
here?
what do you need me for? Because obviously you could get a dildo, it's all good and well. Like, what do you need me for? What? So I'm just saying. So we're and I know we're
It's a big
dealing with the
conversation.
idea where it's a Me Too movement, where there have been the reason we have a Me Too movement is because the men have just like slammed on women
Right.
and done things that are
Right.
awful to women
Right.
in their like primal
Vulnerability,
way,
yeah.
right? So that's different from a man just being a gentleman.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes we just throw the baby out with the bathwater,
Yes,
and we strip them
Just
of everything.
lump it all in
Yeah,
together.
and we're
Yes.
like, okay, no, I need you to pull my chair. I like
Yes.
how, don't
Well, and
stop
I
doing
think
that.
too, that's something else that I wanted to talk about, because the book, even though you talk about it, it's, how to relate in this Me Too era. I don't think that we've talked, I don't know that you've had a in-depth enough portion of the Me Too idea, and like, how do we, because I feel like men now are so, okay, all right, me too, so I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to touch you. I'm not going to
Right.
talk to you.
It's an
I'm
extreme,
not gonna,
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to talk about that, because I
Yeah.
want to talk about the idea of, yes, just because you're not catcalling somebody, and if you pull out my chair for me, or if you pay me a nice compliment, that there is a way in which to do it where
Yeah.
it doesn't feel creepy.
Yeah.
And it's not like, what? Why are you talking? Why are you coming to me like that? So that's what I wish that we would also, maybe you can address it in a different book, or like address it a little bit more.
I write a weekly column for the Good Men Project, and so that kind of thing came about.
Have you
after
talked
the
about it
book.
more?
And,
Yeah.
and I've written articles on that.
Okay,
and,
good.
and I even wrote an article. Actually, I saw there was a question about accountability.
Yeah.
I wrote an article called "When Can We Go Back to Work?" And it was around the time that Louis C.K. got back on stage, and Matt Lauer was talking about going back to work, and people were like, "Well, where's the accountability? Like,
Right,
this thing
right.
just happened." And
Yeah.
so I got into very specifically how to be accountable and how to say, yes, I did that thing, and I'm sorry I did that thing, and this is what I'm going to do to correct that.
Moving forward.
So it is something more substantial than just, okay, I'm just going to go back to work now. And,
Yeah.
And hope
Do you
for the
think it's too
best.
much for us to say or to ask of men to explain that and like have these conversations with women and maybe like preempt it? Like, listen, I'm not trying to be creepy. I don't want you to take it offensively or creepy, but I think that dress looks really nice on you today, or something like that. Because I feel like men they're just not doing it. So is it too much to ask to go that extra mile, or men just like, I'd rather just not say it because that's too much work?
Well, I think men aren't aware of what they can say, and one of the things that I
Almost like
teach
a
is to
common
just say what's there for you. If
Yeah.
if you want to compliment somebody and you're afraid it's going to be taken the wrong way, then say what you just said. Like, I
Okay.
really want to pay you a compliment. I'm afraid you're
Yeah,
going to
it's
take it the
this
wrong way.
heightened sensitivity that exists that's over the
Well,
top.
I think we have to use common sense, people,
Yeah.
too. I mean, I feel like women really, we need to understand, like, I don't know, I'm a big proponent of going with your gut and saying you can tell when someone is being creepy, when someone is being weird or whatever, and it's also okay and be empowering to say, you know what, I really appreciate that comment. You don't have to like run to HR and go try to fire that person unless it's continuous, but I mean, have a conversation. I think it can be polite and respectful on both ends and say, you know what, I really didn't appreciate that, or I really didn't find that funny, or you know, not even like, oh my God, I was so offended by that. And I think we just have to do better in communication.
And there's, you know, like you were saying before about not taking it personally. There have been times where I've, you know, like I was on a date and I went in for the kiss and she wasn't wanting that, and it was like, oh shoot, I'm sorry. You know, didn't make a big deal out of it. Didn't make her wrong. Right. You know, I felt bad, but it was like, you know, I'm sorry, I made a mistake and I won't do it again.
Oh my God, all these mixed messages. No, because unless they're going to read this book and understand, okay, there's a template, there's boundaries, because everything has shifted. Everything really has shifted in all areas of employment. It just has shifted with how we communicate with each other. How do I address this employee, or how do I even interview the employee, or do I acknowledge that? Like, there's such a big shift, and I feel like men who are good men, who are just trying to do the right thing, might get the mixed signals are going to be correct. Like, how do they avoid mixed signals?
Asking questions and listening. You know, like I the chapter on listening. Yeah. Asking questions. I mean, there was a man I was talking to in his 50s, and he was like, "Yeah, I wish we could just go back to the way it was when I was a kid, because you know we didn't have these problems." Right. It's like you did have these problems.
That's where they started.
Nobody was talking about these problems.
Everybody was highly medicated and alcoholics.
Yeah. And he did mention that too. He's like, "Yeah, we just did a bunch, you know, took pills and you know." Like,
and kept it moving. And now we're where we are.
Okay, what do you mean by cultivate your beingness for men?
Okay, so so I taught martial arts for 14 years, and I taught women's self-defense, and a big part of that is who you're being in the world. You know, how do you, and actually it feeds into my outlook on chivalry as well, and creating that safe space. So it's getting in touch with who you are, who you want to be, how you want to be in the world, and then taking the classes, doing the training, meditating, doing whatever that is to have you develop yourself as that person.
It's really like for men to almost like a retraining of your mind and how to communicate with women. Would you say that it's because most men assume, oh, this is the way it is. I just ask her out, we go out, have a date, couple of dates, sleep together. You know, like it's this like a template. Like this is how it's gonna go. And then you're telling men, no, that's not how it is. And they're like, wait, I've been doing this for 30 years. So it's kind of like
that's why I think it's really important to get the young. Because I think this new generation, because somehow in our generation, I feel like we were pretty progressive, but I still see a lot of men in our generation with this type of mentality. And I wonder, well, where did this come from? Like, is it just embedded in them and the socialization? So how do we is this going to be a tool then to retrain? Like you said,
it needs to be a tool.
It was interesting. I was on a panel yesterday at Comic-Con talking about dating and all of this, and there was a married couple on the panel, and one thing that was interesting was the woman was saying how in all of her previous relationships she always felt obligated to take care of her man if he wanted sex, and he was the first man who was like, if you don't feel like it, don't do it.
Right.
You know, and so there's this thing that we've done on both sides where it just we've kind of, I mean, it's a very gracious thing to do that when you don't want to, but at the same time it's even it's gracious to be like, if you don't want to do it, let's do something else.
I think it's just the undertone to me is just a mutual respect. I think everybody needs to come to the table with a mutual respect for one another, and then
but this
can move
is
forward from there.
For every one book that's like this, these are the books I found on Amazon. The Hookup Handbook, the 10 Mistakes Men Make with Women and How, the Dating Playbook, and these were not friendly to the women. These were not friendly to the women, and I'm like, are you kidding me? People are writing, and I mean, some of the titles were like off the chain, and I'm like, people are writing these books still in this Me Too movement, writing these books for young people, for teenagers, for young adults, how to hook up, how to get her to
Or
look,
older
notice
men
you.
to, you know.
So it's a culture
That
shift
are
that's
justifying the culture that we're in.
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that it's, number one release, because that means people are paying attention.
Yeah.
That there has to be a way to communicate that's better.
Well, it's funny, or not funny, but all of the pickup artist stuff that I've come across is all about manipulation and trickery and all of that.
Yes.
Yeah, you talked about
and,
that too.
and
yeah.
so I'm like, I've done fine just being like, hi.
Just being honest.
What do you need? Who
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah,
how
and it
do
blew
we get
my
along?
mind in the book where you were explaining, like you had to explain to people how to just like introduce themselves or just like, talk to somebody. And I was like, I chuckled. I was like, wow, I can't really believe that he had to write this down on a piece of paper, and people actually have to read and understand that. Again, to me, it just goes back to kind of common sense, but maybe people just don't have that, or they get too involved, or they think about it too much. So I really appreciate your effort and everything that you did, and I'm definitely less, in my feelings.
Less judgmental. Well, yeah, I mean, in a culture where you have crazy books like the ones I just read, and then you're trying to, that's where that's where I feel all the mixed signals come in from men, where I just read a book on how to hook up, and you don't want to hook up?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to hook up.
Right.
You need to read the man school.
Yes, you need to go to man.
What's the one takeaway you want people to have about the book?
Yeah.
Everybody, men and women, doesn't matter.
It really is just about taking the time to understand each other and to acknowledge that we have different experiences, not even just as men and women, but men within men, women within women, and everybody else.
Yeah. Understanding that there are differences in women, and men need to understand too.
And
that
we
there
don't
are
want to
differences.
break men down.
No.
That's not
No.
the intention either of the book or of women in general. I love chivalry. I'll get Felicia to love chivalry.
I'm not a fan. Whatever. I can pull out my own chair.
But it's a great resource if you have young men in your lives, if you have nieces, nephews, men, your husband, if you feel like, he might need a little touch up on his
I do. I think my husband does need to listen up, Mr. Grigsby. It's coming for you.
Read this book. But we want to thank you for joining us. This
Yes,
was great.
it
It
went
was
by fast.
fearless, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't as
right.
bad as he thought. We were telling him, we're coming for you.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's great. Listen, go check it out. It's on our Facebook Live.
Yep.
You have 2 links there. You have his website. You have the Amazon link. You could hit on it. It'll take you straight to the book.
Yes.
We
Get it, like
want
she said, great stocking
It's a
stuffer.
great stocking stuffer. No, stuffer. I'm actually going to pick up a couple for my sons. And we want to thank you, Matthew.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you
joining
so
us here at the
much.
table.
Yes.
We hope you've been informed, educated, and entertained. Catch us on Wednesday. We'll be back with another great show. Have a
Yes,
great
have
rest
a
of
great
your week.
Bye.
Bye.
You're listening to Table for Five with Felicia and Annette, only on LA Talk Radio.